What's up, Gaming Nation? I am back with another 7 Days to Die video. I'm Game, and today we are going to go through all of the blocks, the building blocks that are in 7 Days to Die. Now, I'm going to assume that you guys know nothing about any of these blocks, even though you guys probably do, and I want to kind of show you guys the progression, the different variants of all the different building blocks that you can have, and then also how to upgrade them. This was something that was really confusing to me at first when I first started 7 Days to Die, so this is definitely beginner level, but you guys might actually learn a few tips if you guys watch it until the end. So the very first thing I want to show you guys is how to actually upgrade something. So number one, you're going to need a tool to upgrade the blocks that you're using. Obviously, at this point, I'm going to assume that you guys know how to create the basic block, which is the wood frame, which all you need to do is chop down a tree, get some wood, look at your recipes, and then you should find wood frame block somewhere there and be able to craft it from the crafting menu. So the different tools that you can use to upgrade things at this point is the stone axe, which you make day one. You guys should follow the directions in your quest guide how to make that. You'll also find a claw hammer at some point throughout your playthrough, and towards the mid to late game you should be able to find a nail gun, which is amazing. One-click upgrade. It's so nice, and I'll show you what that means in just a minute. So forgive my inventory. I will show you guys all these items really quick just so you guys can see them. So first off, we want to start out with the stone axe. So obviously you guys have went through the quest most likely, and it tells you to upgrade a block. Now what you want to do, instead of left clicking like normal where you attack something, you actually want to right click. Or right clicking on an item that you can actually upgrade, it's going to give you this little icon and you're going to be able to upgrade something. So in this case, we've taken a wood frame block that we placed from our inventory. Let's put one down for you guys. So we place down the block, and then we can simply upgrade it once with, with our tool. If you guys want, we can show you the hammer. So the stone axe takes usually 3 hits to upgrade anything. The claw hammer takes 2 hits, 1, 2, and then the nail gun, again more mid to late range, is a 1 right click and it upgrades, which is super nice, super efficient. So from here on out, I'm going to use the nail gun because it's so much easier and I'm in creative mode anyway. So the different variants of what you guys can do, the different tiers. You start out with the wood frame block, and then you can upgrade that to the second stage wood. Now, if you guys notice, if we want to look at the health of the wood frame block is 50 health. So 50 hit points. The frame block is not something you want to build your base out of. The zombies will tear through that very, very quickly. The second stage is 225 hit points, which is a pretty good upgrade, but also not something you really want to build your real base out of because the zombies will break through that pretty quickly. The second stage, you upgrade once, and then you can upgrade again using wood from your inventory, and it is going to be 225 hit points. Now you notice I did just say that. 225, 225. The real progression between the second stage wood and the third stage wood isn't anything. It's not better building, it's not better hit points, but you do have to upgrade that in order to continue to upgrade to the next level. I'll show you guys in a little bit of tips to how to avoid that and how to make building a little bit faster. But for right now, let's just keep on this path. So if you upgrade the wood frame, let's upgrade this, pull out the nail gun. So if we upgrade this, we can actually upgrade that by having this material, which is cobblestone rocks. Cobblestone rocks you guys can get throughout the journeys. You can actually mine. You guys can actually pick up rocks such as this one, the small stone, and if you take the small stone and you look at your recipes, you should be able to actually make cobblestone rocks out of a few small stone and a few clay. So once you have that, if you upgrade that block, it's going to turn from the wood all the way straight into this next block, which is cobblestone. Now, this is not the same. I'm showing you guys the progression here. So you can actually skip this stage, which we'll talk about in a little bit, all the way to this stage just by going through and manually upgrading your base. So what I like to do, and I like to tell people, is build your base out of the wood and then keep upgrading it as you get more materials. This is going to help you gain a lot of experience, and then also it's going to help you get your base built pretty quickly. Now, I do want to show you guys what this is. So this one is Flagstone. Now, Flagstone, you guys can actually make in your inventory, which is a Flagstone block. So if you guys don't want to have just the wood, you want to start out somewhere a little bit stronger, you guys can actually take those cobblestone rocks that I told about earlier, and you can make Flagstone blocks. Now, the Flagstone blocks are just like the wood blocks. Let's throw one down here. So you guys can actually start using these, and you can start building with this instead. Now, this does have a lot more hit points. It has 500 hit points compared to the wood, which is 50 or 225. So a lot of players will not even bother building out of wood. They'll go straight for this Flagstone instead. What you can do for the Flagstone is, if you upgrade it, you can upgrade it into the cobblestone, which has 1500 hit points. So that's definitely an alternative. The other good thing about this is, if you notice in the bottom right hand or the bottom left hand corner, it's going to have the little shapes, which means if you hold R when you have the shape, you can go into shapes and it's going to give you a lot more options. So you can build things. You can build stairs, you can build corners, pillars, whatever you guys want to build. You can actually build different things inside of here. You can also do that with other blocks. For instance, the wood frame block, you can go into the shapes menu and you have some additional shapes as well. Different shapes, different types of building blocks have different shapes. So you do have to pay attention to that, but for the most part, all the basic shapes will be in that menu. Now, I know what you're thinking. Game, you did it again. You skipped this cool looking material. You went from this one all the way up to this one. So let me take a second and tell you guys what these things are. So these are actually not made out of wood at all. These are iron frame blocks. The iron frames are a little bit different. Now, these have 100 hit points. The iron frame blocks are not something that you can actually build out of wood and then upgrade to iron, but you can actually make separately in the game. The iron frame blocks personally are something I never really utilize, but it could be something that you guys would want to build. To build the iron frame blocks, if you look in your inventory, if you just type in iron frame, you're going to see that it does require an anvil. It's got a little anvil side, so it requires the workbench. The iron frame blocks you make with iron and clay. But remember, if you look at it, it has 100 hit points, whereas the wood is only 50 hit points. You can get a lot of wood very, very fast by chopping down trees, compared to going and mining a lot of iron and clay just to build the blocks. So it is a resource heavy item. So that's why you won't see a lot of players using iron to build their bases. So to quickly go over the iron, you have the iron, you can upgrade the iron into the next variant, which is the first stage iron, which actually looks really nice in my opinion. But if you notice, it only has 1,000 hit points. Now, that is better than the wood, but it's not better than the cobblestone, which is a lot easier to get cobblestone in the beginning levels to mid levels than it is to get a bunch of iron. If you upgrade this one more time, you're going to see it upgrades to another version. So this version, still oddly enough, only has 1,000 hit points. So the only thing that changes is actually just the visual look and appearance of it, which it does look a little cool, but personally, again, it's not something that I like to use. Now, Forge, by melting together a few different items. If we look it up in the menu, it takes iron and then also clay. So you have to melt that down into the iron frame block. So I'll show you guys real quickly over here. We've got the forge. If we look up the iron frame, it takes 18 iron and 5 clay, which again, at the beginning to mid stage, you're not wanting to waste a lot of the iron that you do get. So it is a little bit hard to come by, but we can make the block. It'll craft in here and put it into the output down here. And if we go back to the cobblestone real quick, and I want to show you guys something as well with the cobblestone. If you guys upgrade the cobblestone, you use cement. Cement is actually found in the game. So you use the concrete mix to upgrade the flagstone blocks to concrete. Now this is a really, really nice jump because the hit points go from 1500 all the way up to 2500. So the hit points is really good, and it's really, really good experience upgrading the blocks. The concrete is a little bit harder to find. But also, if you guys do use the iron, when you have the second stage iron, which again is a little bit of resources, when you upgrade that, you can also upgrade that with cement, 10 of cement, to make concrete blocks. So either which way you go, you could do this, which is a little bit resource heavy in the beginning compared to the end, but the cement usage is still the same. It still uses 10 cement to go from one to the next one. So I personally would build the flagstone or the cobblestone and then upgrade from there. Now, the rebar frame is something that at the beginning I definitely did not understand. So the rebar frame actually works the exact same as all of the other frames that are in the game. If you guys want to look at it, here's the rebar frame. You can place it down, pick it up. It works just like the other frames. You can use the shape, which it has a very small shape menu, but it has all the basic shapes. We could put down the rebar frame, and whenever you upgrade the rebar frame, it automatically goes from the rebar frame to second stage concrete, which we haven't looked at yet, and I'll show you guys. This is the concrete block, and it has 2500 hit points like we mentioned earlier. The second stage concrete, which is concrete with more concrete, gives us 5,000 hit points. This is when you really start to get your base built up to where zombies just takes a long time to actually break into the base. This is definitely mid to later game stages. Now, when you build the rebar frame, like I said, it goes straight to the second stage concrete. So instead of building all of these, some people will actually just use the rebar frames to build their horde base and then upgrade it with a little bit of concrete to make second stage concrete and make it perfect, make it easy, make it good. That's definitely an option if you guys want to. If you want to look at the rebar frames, if you look at the rebar frame, it takes iron and clay. The neat thing about this is if you pay attention, the rebar frame takes 6 iron and 1 clay. If we go and look at the iron frame block, it takes 18 iron and 5 clay. So it takes literally 3 times the amount of iron to make an iron frame block compared to the rebar frame. So if you guys are thinking, the iron's pretty cool, maybe consider doing the rebar frames instead, because that's going to give you second stage concrete right off the bat, and you don't have to worry about upgrading. However, if you guys are choosing to do this, making these blocks and upgrading them to the second stage is going to give you a little bit of experience, but it's going to get done really fast. But if you guys built from day one, if you started building your blocks and used all of your resources to build all the way up to the second stage concrete, you guys are going to get a massive amount of experience every time you upgrade those blocks, especially times 50 blocks for your entire base. So it's a lot more experience to build your base and to upgrade the base as you go, but it's a slow process. Okay, so I'm sure that you guys are all ready for the best of the best, the steel. So if you guys have the crucible, which is a item for your forge to allow you guys to make steel, and you guys have a ton of iron to make steel out of, you're going to get forged steel. The forged steel is what you need to upgrade bases from the concrete. 10 steel will turn it into a steel block, which is 7,000 hit points. Now that's 2,000 more than the other, but the other thing about the steel is the upgrade cost. That's something that I personally, when I'm playing a playthrough, unless I have an abundance of iron and steel, I don't like necessarily upgrading everything to steel, because the repair cost of all that steel every time you want to repair something is going to be huge, and it's going to cost you a lot overall of resources. So personally, I like to stick with the second stage concrete for most of my playthrough, unless I just really need something specifically made out of steel and I've got a lot of resources and I know I'm going to be able to keep the resources up. Hey guys, so the last thing on the list is the wet concrete block. Now this is something that kind of goes between the concrete and the second stage, but I want to kind of save it to the end for you guys. Now this is something that I had no idea about when I first started the game until way later watching other people's playthroughs, and I was like, hey, what the heck is wet concrete block? That sounds cool, right? So these are going to act just like your frames, where you can hold the R key and then you could change the shape of all the different shapes. Now, it doesn't have all the shapes as everything else does, but it's got a lot of shapes, a lot of them that you would normally use. But one thing to remember is this is not like the normal blocks. Like, for instance, this is not like the wood frames that you can lay it down and pick it back up. Once you lay the concrete blocks down, you cannot pick that back up. To better explain this, over here, at kind of earlier in the video, we had upgraded this rebar frame to the second stage concrete. Now, it didn't automatically just upgrade to this look. It's actually currently just sitting here in a wet concrete form. Now, if you notice, it only has 1,500 hit points. The rebar frame had 50. Concrete has 2,500. And then if we remove this, the second stage concrete has 5,000. So this is actually weaker until it actually sets. So it's a weaker point. So if you guys are building a horde base and you want to build it out of these wet concrete blocks, it's a great idea, but make sure you guys do it at least 4 to 6 hours before the horde, because it's not going to be as strong as the second stage concrete, because it's actually wet blocks, which it only has a little bit of hit point. So guys, that's my video on the different types of blocks in the game. If you guys like it, please drop a like. If you love the video, consider subscribing. And if you guys have anything to say or any questions, put it down in the comments below and I'll get right back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day. Peace.